1 month after the Battle of Mars, representatives from every human world gathered in the United Earth Council chamber. The room was packed with heroes from the war: Captain Wells, Captain Roberts, Kate Miller, Tom, and countless others who had fought to defend humanity. On the main platform stood the Grey High Commander, no longer proud and threatening, but humbled. Behind him, a delegation of Grey leaders waited to sign the peace treaty. "Before we begin," the Grey High Commander spoke, his voice carrying through the chamber, "I wish to address the human people." Wells, sitting in the front row, watched carefully as the alien leader stepped forward. For centuries, the Grey Empire ruled the stars. We believed advanced technology made us superior. We treated other species as primitive, as lesser beings. The commander's large eyes swept across the chamber. We were wrong. He gestured to the human leaders. You showed us that true strength lies not in having the newest technology, but in understanding all technology. While we forgot our past, you remembered yours. While we relied solely on computers, you kept your manual skills sharp. While we became dependent on AI, you maintained your ability to think and adapt. Kate, sitting next to Wells, smiled as the commander continued. The Grey Empire offers its complete surrender. We will pay reparations to all affected human colonies. We will share our technology, not as superior beings, but as equals. And we will remember the lesson you taught us. Never mistake simplicity for weakness. Never underestimate those you consider primitive. The peace treaty was comprehensive. The Greys would help rebuild every damaged human colony. They would compensate the families of those lost in their attacks. Most importantly, they would acknowledge humanity as equals in the galaxy. After the ceremony, Wells stood at a viewport in the space station, looking down at Earth. Roberts joined him, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "Quite a change from that day on the Star Wanderer," she said, handing him a glass. Wells nodded. "I keep thinking about my crew who didn't make it. They should be here to see this." "They are here," Kate said, joining them with Tom. "Everything we accomplished was because of them. Their sacrifice showed us what we were up against, made us angry enough to fight back." Tom raised his glass. "To the Star Wanderer's crew, and to everyone else who taught the galaxy not to mess with humans." As they celebrated, news came in from across human space. The Grey defeat had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other advanced species, who had looked down on primitive humans, suddenly began offering trade deals and diplomatic relations. "They're scared of us now," Roberts observed. Wells shook his head. "They shouldn't be scared. They should learn from this. Technology isn't just about having the newest and most advanced systems. It's about understanding all of it, old and new." Kate laughed. "Says the man who defeated an alien empire with EMP weapons and mechanical controls." "We defeated them because we remembered our history," Wells corrected. "Because when they took away our advanced technology, we still knew how to fight, how to fly, how to survive." Looking out at the stars, Wells thought about the future. Humanity would grow stronger, incorporating Grey technology into their own. But they would never forget the lessons of the past. They would never become dependent on any one type of technology. And most importantly, they would never forget what happened when the Greys made them angry. Years later, at the Grey War Memorial, a simple plaque would tell the story to future generations. It didn't list the battles or the technologies. Instead, it carried a simple warning to the galaxy. Humans are not defined by their technology, but by their determination. They remember their past, learn from their present, and always find a way to shape their future. Treat them with respect, learn from their wisdom, and never, ever make them angry. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through superior technology, but through the uniquely human trait of never forgetting where they came from, even as they reached for where they were going. The victory at New Haven Colony changed everything. Within days, the Grey High Command gathered their largest fleet ever, 100 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Their target, Earth itself. "They're done playing games," Captain Roberts said, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching gray armada. "This is their full strength." Wells stood beside her on the Defender's bridge, now the flagship of humanity's combined fleet. 60 human ships had gathered to defend their homeworld, each one modified with Kate's EMP weapons and stripped-down mechanical systems. "Good," Wells said. "Let them come with everything they have. This ends today." The Grey High Commander's transmission reached every human ship and station. "Humans, you have proven more troublesome than expected. Surrender now, and we will make your extinction quick and painless." Roberts stepped forward. "You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? We're not surrendering. We're not backing down. You wanted to teach humanity a lesson. Well, now it's our turn to teach you one." The Grey Fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Mars' orbit. Their ships filled the sky like silver stars, their advanced weapons powering up. The human fleet looked tiny in comparison, scattered among the asteroids and orbital stations. Kate's voice came over the command channel. "All ships report EMP weapons charged and ready. Mechanical systems online. We're as ready as we'll ever be." "All ships," Roberts called. "Execute battle plan Thermopylae." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The first group, led by Roberts, charged straight at the Grey Fleet's center. The second group, under Tom's command, moved to flank the enemy. Wells led the third group, hiding among Mars' orbital stations. The Greys responded exactly as expected, their AI tactical systems calculating the perfect response to the human attack. Their fleet divided to counter each human group, their formation perfect and precise. Too perfect, too precise. "Now," Wells ordered. Every orbital station around Mars suddenly launched thousands of simple metal containers, the same trick they'd used at New Haven, but on a massive scale. The Grey Fleet sensors were overwhelmed by the cloud of debris and radiation. "All ships, fire EMP weapons," Roberts commanded. The space between Mars and Earth lit up with electromagnetic pulses. The Grey ship's shields, designed to stop energy weapons and physical attacks, couldn't block these primitive pulses. Ship after ship went dark. But the Greys had learned too. Their flagship and several others remained active, protected by new shielding. "Second wave. Attack." Tom's voice rang out. His ships launched old-style nuclear missiles, weapons so primitive the Greys had stopped defending against them centuries ago. The explosion didn't damage the Grey ships directly. Instead, it created a massive electromagnetic storm that overwhelmed even their new shields. More ships went dark. The Grey High Commander watched in horror as his mighty fleet was defeated by weapons his people had considered obsolete for generations. His own flagship systems began to fail as Wells led a final attack run. "This is why you never make humans angry," Wells transmitted to the Grey flagship. "We don't just use our technology. We learned from it. We remember the old ways. And when something threatens us, we use everything we have." The battle ended not with advanced energy weapons or AI-guided strikes, but with simple boarding actions. Human crews in mechanical suits cut their way into the powerless Grey ships. The mighty Grey Armada, the most advanced fleet in known space, was defeated by what they had dismissed as primitive weapons and tactics. The Grey High Commander's last words before his capture became famous throughout human space. "We thought your reliance on old ways made you weak. We were wrong. It made you unstoppable." The war was over, but humanity's message to the galaxy was just beginning. Never underestimate those you call primitive, and never, ever, make humans angry. The news of the Grey Scout ship's capture spread through human space like wildfire. For the first time, humanity had proof that the mighty Greys could be defeated. But victory had a price. 3 days after the successful test, Wells was woken by emergency alarms on the Defender. He rushed to the bridge, where Captain Roberts stood staring at a holographic display of a human colony. "New Haven Colony," she said without turning. "Population 50,000. The Greys just attacked it." Wells felt his blood run cold. The display showed massive gray warships in orbit around the small farming colony. They were nothing like the scout ship they had captured. These were real warships, built for destruction. "Casualties?" he asked, dreading the answer. "None yet. They're broadcasting a message." Roberts pressed a button, and a gray face appeared on the main screen. This one wore ornate markings that showed high rank. "Humans," the gray commander said. "Your recent attack on our scout ship was an act of war. Surrender the captured ship and its crew, or we will destroy this colony. You have 6 hours to comply." The message ended. Roberts turned to Wells, her face hard. "Command is talking about giving in. They say we can't risk a full war. If we give in now, the Greys will never stop." Wells looked at the tactical display. "How many ships can we gather in 6 hours? Maybe 15, but they won't be enough against those warships." Roberts shook her head. "Their technology is too advanced." "Then we don't fight their technology." Wells turned to Kate, who had just arrived on the bridge. "How many EMP weapons can you make in 6 hours? Kate's eyes lit up. "With the whole engineering crew working. Enough to arm every ship we have." "We'll need more than weapons," Tom added from his station. "Those warships will be ready for EMPs after what happened to their scout." Wells nodded. "That's why we'll give them something else to worry about first." He turned to Roberts. "Captain, I have a plan. But you're not going to like it." 5 hours later, a fleet of 15 human ships approached New Haven Colony. They looked pathetic compared to the 5 massive gray warships in orbit. The gray commander appeared on their screens again, looking amused. "Have you come to surrender?" he asked. Roberts stood proud on her bridge. "We've come to show you why making humans angry is a bad idea." The battle began exactly as the Greys expected. The human ships attacked with conventional weapons, their shots barely scratching the gray shields. The gray commander laughed as his ships prepared to fire back. That's when Wells's real plan began. "Now," he shouted over the fleet channel. Every human ship released dozens of small objects. Simple metal containers filled with mining explosives. The Greys' advanced sensors dismissed them as debris. The explosions weren't meant to damage the gray ships, but they created a massive cloud of metal fragments and radiation that confused the gray sensors. In that moment of confusion, the real attack began. Kate's voice rang out. "EMP weapons ready. Fire." This time, the EMP bursts were stronger, designed to penetrate even upgraded gray shields. One by one, the mighty gray warships went dark. But the humans weren't done. As the gray ships struggled to restart their systems, Wells led a squadron of modified shuttles armed with simple mechanical weapons. Without their shields and advanced targeting, the gray warships were vulnerable. "Remember the Star Wanderer," Wells called as his squadron attacked. "Remember every human ship they destroyed." The gray commander watched in horror as his mighty fleet was taken apart by weapons his people had considered obsolete centuries ago. His last transmission before his ship went completely dark was picked up by every human vessel. "What have we awakened?" The answer was simple. They had awakened humanity's full fury, and this was just the beginning. The gray scout ship moved through space like a shark searching for prey. Its sleek hull reflected the distant starlight as its advanced sensors swept the area for potential targets. Inside, the gray crew watched their displays with bored confidence. Hunting humans had become routine. They didn't notice the 3 small shuttles hiding in the shadow of a nearby asteroid. The shuttles were ugly things by gray standards, stripped of modern sensors, running on basic power, guided by human hands instead of AI. In the lead shuttle, Wells checked his manual instruments one last time. "All ships, radio check. Old-style frequencies only. Shuttle 2, ready." Kate's voice crackled through the speaker. "Shuttle 3, standing by," Tom reported from the last ship. Wells took a deep breath. "Remember, when the EMP hits, we'll have 30 seconds before their systems start to recover. Make them count." The gray ship drew closer, passing right where they wanted it. Wells squeezed his control stick. Now, 3 shuttles burst from behind the asteroid. The gray ship's sensors detected them immediately, but by then it was too late. Kate's voice rang out over the radio. EMP weapons hot. Firing. A wave of invisible energy burst from the shuttles. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a candle being blown out, every light on the gray ship went dark. Direct hit, Kate shouted. Their systems are down. Wells pushed his shuttle forward, using only mechanical thrusters and manual targeting. All ships, attack pattern Alpha, just like we practiced. The gray ship floated helplessly as the 3 shuttles swarmed around it. Without their advanced shields and weapons, the Greys could only watch as the humans attacked with simple, conventional weapons. Inside the gray ship, panic spread through the crew. None of their systems would respond. Their eye was offline, their weapons dead, their shields gone. For the first time, they faced enemies they couldn't simply overwhelm with superior technology. Wells's voice came through their emergency receivers, the only system still working. Gray vessel, this is Captain Wells. Remember me. You attacked my ship last week, called us primitive. How does primitive feel now? The gray commander responded, his usual calm shattered. Impossible. Your weapons are too basic to defeat our technology. That's your problem, Wells replied. You forgot that basic doesn't mean weak. Now power down your backup systems and prepare to be boarded. The Greys had no choice but to comply. As Wells and his team entered the gray ship wearing simple spacesuits with mechanical air systems, they found the crew in shock. The mighty Greys, with all their advanced technology, had been defeated by weapons their ancestors had considered obsolete. Kate downloaded data from the gray ship's computers while Tom secured the prisoners. The gray commander watched them work, his large eyes showing confusion and fear. How? He asked Wells. Our scans showed no advanced weapons, no AI systems, no modern technology at all. Wells smiled. Exactly. You were so busy looking for advanced threats that you forgot about the simple ones. Humanity learned long ago not to rely too heavily on any one type of technology. That's not primitive. That's wisdom. The test was a complete success. Within hours, the UES Defender arrived to take custody of the gray ship and its crew. Captain Roberts could hardly believe the sensor logs. Command won't be able to ignore this, she said. You just proved the Greys can be beaten. Wells watched as the gray prisoners were led away. We did more than that. We proved why humans are dangerous. We don't forget our past. We learned from it. And when something works, we keep it, no matter how simple it seems. The message would spread quickly through gray space. Humans had found a way to defeat their superior technology. But the real message was even more terrifying for them. They had underestimated humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to think differently. The real war was about to begin. The battle between the UES Defender and the gray ship was short but revealing. The gray vessel, surprised by the military ship's appearance, quickly retreated into faster-than-light speed. But not before the Defender's sensors collected valuable data about their technology. In the ship's main conference room, Captain Wells studied the sensor readings with Kate Miller, the Defender's chief engineer. She was young for her position, with quick eyes and hands that never seemed to stop moving. Look at these energy readings, Kate said, pointing to a complex diagram. Their shields, weapons, navigation, everything runs through AI systems. They're completely dependent on their computers. Wells leaned closer. That's why they think we're primitive. We still use manual backups and mechanical systems. Exactly. Kate pulled up another screen. Their technology is amazing, but it's their weakness too. They've forgotten how to do things the old way. Captain Roberts joined them, carrying reports from military command. Her face was grim. The Council is still refusing to act. They say we need more proof of gray hostility. More proof. Wells slammed his hand on the table. How many more ships need to die? They're scared, Roberts said. The Greys have technology we can barely understand. How do we fight an enemy like that? Kate looked up from her screens, her eyes bright with an idea. Maybe we don't need to understand their technology. Maybe we just need to take it away. Both captains turned to her. What do you mean? Wells asked. Electromagnetic pulse weapons, Kate said. Old technology, really old. The Greys protect against modern weapons, but what about something so primitive they don't even consider it a threat? Roberts frowned. EMP weapons, those went out of use centuries ago. They're too crude, too easy to shield against. For human ships, yes. Kate was getting excited now. But the Greys rely completely on their AI and advanced systems. They don't have mechanical backups. One good EMP burst could shut down everything. Wells started to smile. And while they're trying to reboot their fancy computers, we can fight them the old-fashioned way, Kate finished, with manual targeting and good old human reflexes. Roberts looked thoughtful. How long would it take to build these weapons? A week, maybe less. Kate was already making calculations. We'll need to modify some shuttles too. Strip out all the modern systems, install mechanical controls, make them completely EMP-proof. The Greys will never expect it, Wells said. They'll be looking for advanced weapons, new technology, not something from humanity's past. Roberts nodded slowly. I'll need to convince Command to let us try this. They won't like using untested weapons against superior forces. Then don't tell them everything, Wells suggested. Just ask for permission to test some alternative defense systems. If it works, they can't argue with results. The next few days were a blur of activity. Kate and her engineering team worked around the clock, building EMP weapons and modifying shuttles. Wells helped test the manual control systems, teaching younger pilots how to fly without computer assistance. The Greys had made a critical mistake. They thought humanity's reliance on older, simpler technology was a weakness. They didn't understand that humans kept these systems for a reason. Humans remembered their history, learned from it, and most importantly, knew that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. 1 week later, they were ready for their first test. A small scout ship was spotted at the edge of human space, probably looking for more merchant vessels to attack. All ships, prepare for combat test, Roberts announced over the comm. Remember, when the EMP hits, we switch to manual controls immediately, just like we practiced. In his modified shuttle, Wells checked his mechanical gauges and gripped the manual control stick. Next to him, Kate made final adjustments to her EMP weapon. Ready? She asked. Wells nodded. Time to show the Greys what primitive humans can do. The hunt was no longer just beginning. Now, it was about to draw first blood. 3 days after the attack, the crew of the Star Wanderer was running out of hope. Their emergency power supplies were almost gone, and the temperature aboard the ship kept dropping. They had gathered in the least damaged section of the ship, sharing body heat to stay warm. Captain Wells kept watch at the only working sensor screen, looking for any sign of rescue. His hands were shaking from the cold, but his eyes never left the display. Tom and Mary worked to keep their remaining systems running, while Bill and Pete tried to salvage supplies from the frozen cargo holds. Captain. Tom's voice broke the silence. I'm picking up something. A massive ship appeared on their sensors. Unlike the sleek gray vessel, this one was clearly human-made, all sharp angles and powerful engines. The words UES Defender were painted on its hull in bold letters. This is Captain Roberts of the UES Defender. A voice crackled through their damaged communications. Star Wanderer, do you copy? Wells almost cried with relief. This is Captain Wells. We copy. We have 5 survivors in need of immediate evacuation. Within an hour, the survivors were aboard the Defender. They sat in the ship's medical bay, wrapped in warm blankets, while doctors treated their injuries. Captain Roberts, a tall woman with gray hair and stern eyes, listened to their story. Show me your sensor logs, she said when Wells finished speaking. Wells handed over their damaged data cores. We managed to save most of the recordings, but there's something else you need to know. He leaned forward. While we were waiting for rescue, we picked up other distress signals. Weak ones, old ones. There are dozens of them out there. Roberts nodded grimly. We know. You're not the first human ship they've attacked. But you are the first with survivors. The news hit Wells like a punch to the gut. How many ships? In the past 6 months, 8 merchant vessels, all disappeared without a trace. We suspected the Greys, but had no proof. She gestured to the data cores. Until now. Tom, who had been quiet until then, spoke up. Why haven't we done anything about it? Politics. Roberts spat the word like it was poison. The Greys are centuries ahead of us in technology. The government fears starting a war we can't win. Wells stood up, ignoring the pain in his injured leg. They're already at war with us. They're killing our people, destroying our ships. We can't just let them continue. I agree, Roberts said. That's why I've been gathering evidence. With your sensor logs and testimony, we might finally have enough to force the council to act. Just then, a young officer rushed into the medical bay. Captain Roberts, we're picking up a Grey ship on long-range sensors. They're attacking another merchant vessel. Roberts jumped to her feet, but Wells grabbed her arm. Let me come to the bridge. I've seen how they fight. The bridge of the Defender was a hive of activity. On the main screen, they could see another human ship under attack from the same silver vessel that had crippled the Star Wanderer. They're using the same pattern, Wells pointed out. They're not trying to destroy the ship completely. They want to leave witnesses this time too. Roberts nodded. Helm, full power to engines. Weapons, ready all systems. She turned to Wells. Want to help us ruin their day? For the first time since the attack, Wells smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Nothing would make me happier. As the Defender raced to intercept the Grey ship, Wells watched the crew prepare for battle. The Greys thought humans were weak, primitive, and easily frightened. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Because there was one thing the Greys hadn't considered: humans protect their own. And when you hurt enough humans, when you make them angry enough, even the most advanced technology in the galaxy won't save you from what comes next. The hunt was about to begin. The silence of deep space was broken by a sudden blast that rocked the merchant vessel Star Wanderer. Captain Jack Wells grabbed his command chair as warning lights flooded the bridge with angry red glows. Report, he shouted, his voice steady despite the chaos. Tom, his first officer, worked quickly at his station. Unknown ship, sir. They came out of nowhere. Our sensors didn't pick them up until they fired. Another hit shook the ship. The lights flickered, and the smell of burning circuits filled the air. Through the main viewport, Wells saw their attacker. A sleek, silver vessel that seemed to shimmer like mercury in the starlight. It was beautiful in a deadly way, clearly far more advanced than any human ship he'd ever seen. Send out a distress signal, Wells ordered, and get our weapons online. But before they could act, 3 more shots hit their engines. The Star Wanderer's power systems began to fail one by one. Wells watched helplessly as his crew fought to keep their ship alive. They were a simple merchant vessel, carrying farming equipment to the outer colonies. They weren't built for combat. Sir, they're hailing us, Tom called out. A large screen flickered to life, showing their attackers. Wells felt his blood run cold. The beings on the screen were tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to glow slightly. Their large black eyes showed no emotion as they looked at the humans. Primitive vessels should not travel these lanes, the Gray said in perfect English. You were warned. Wells stood up straight. We received no warnings. We're a peaceful merchant ship on a registered route. Stand down your weapons. The Gray's expression didn't change. Lies. Your kind always lies. You will serve as an example to other human ships that dare enter superior space. The transmission cut off. Wells turned to his crew. Everyone to the escape pods. Now. But it was too late. The next shot hit their life support systems. Wells watched in horror as 3 of his crew members were killed instantly when their section depressurized. Tom worked frantically at his console, trying to send out one last distress signal. "Got it," Tom shouted. Signal sent on all emergency frequencies. The gray ship fired again. This time, they targeted the cargo holds, destroying millions of credits worth of farming equipment meant for struggling colonies. They were being methodically taken apart, piece by piece. Through the chaos, Wells noticed something strange. The Greys were being careful not to completely destroy their ship. They were leaving just enough intact to ensure some survivors. They wanted witnesses to their power. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the attack stopped. The gray ship moved closer, and their cold voice came through the damaged speakers. "Remember this day, humans. Remember what happens when lesser beings forget their place. If you survive, tell others what you saw. The Greys rule these stars, and we will not tolerate primitive species in our space." The gray ship vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving the Star Wanderer barely functioning. Of the original crew of 12, only 5 remained alive. They huddled on what was left of their bridge, surrounded by the bodies of their friends and the ruins of their ship. Wells looked at the survivors: Tom, his first officer, Mary from engineering, and 2 cargo handlers, Bill and Pete. They were injured, scared, and angry, but they were alive, and that meant they could tell their story. "Log everything," Wells ordered, his voice tight with controlled rage. Every detail, every word they said, every shot they fired. The humans need to know what happened here. As they waited for rescue, Wells made a silent promise to his dead crew members. The Greys thought humans were primitive and weak. They thought this attack would scare humanity away from the stars. But they had made a terrible mistake. They had made humans angry. And that was something they would soon learn to regret.